Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are wading into some potentially treacherous waters.
I'd say so.
We're looking at the collision of two things that are stressful enough on their own, but when you put them together, it's absolute dynamite.
Romance and finance.
Romance and finance.
It's a volatile mix. And honestly, looking at the research we've got for today, the landscape of love in 2026, it just looks so drastically different than it did even 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh, completely.
The economic pressure it's actually reshaping how we connect with each other.
Totally. And to kick things off, I have to throw this statistic at you because it genuinely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So some new data shows that 4 in 10, Americans 4 in 10, now say that hiding credit card debt
Is as bad as physical cheating.
is as bad as physically cheating,
Yeah.
as in having an affair.
That is a staggering number.
Right.
I mean, it really just highlights how much financial trust has become the bedrock of romantic trust. If you undermine one, you completely undermine the other. It suggests that for, nearly half the population, the bank balance is just as sacred as the bedroom.
Right. So today, we're going to explore this new reality. We've got a massive stack of sources here, everything from academic papers to industry data.
A lot to get through.
And we're going to try and figure out why financial compatibility is basically replacing the SMARC, how to spot what researchers are calling financial infidelity, and how Gen Z is rewriting the whole playbook on commitment.
It's a fascinating shift, and I think to really understand the why, we have to look at the where.
Meaning the economy.
Exactly, the economic climate of 2026.
Yeah.
Because you just can't separate the dating market from the actual market.
Yeah, you can't. It's rough out there. We've seen inflation cool down a bit, but the cost of living baseline is still incredibly high.
It is, and that pressure is changing the mechanics of how people date. I saw this report on what they're calling the cuffing economy. It found that 51% of Americans are going on fewer dates, purely because of the economy. And if you look just at Gen Z, that number jumps to 58%.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, think about the logistics. Who can afford to go out for dinner and drinks 3 times a week when a cocktail is $20?
Nobody.
It's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that this scarcity is creating new social rules. The sources mention something like a date price consensus.
Yes, this is a rare moment of agreement across generations. Whether you're Gen Z, Millennial, or Gen X, the data shows that the sweet spot for a first date is now strictly between $50 and $100.
Which, let's be honest, in 2026 doesn't get you very far.
Not at all.
That's maybe 2 drinks and a shared appetizer if you're lucky.
No, it doesn't go far. But the implication is fascinating. It means splurging is no longer seen as a necessary sign of interest. In fact, flashing cash might even be seen as reckless. If someone drops $300 on a first date, the other person isn't thinking, wow, they're generous.
No, they're thinking, do they have a savings account? Are they impulsive?
Exactly. It's such a 180-degree turn from the old whining and dining standard.
But there is a flip side to this frugality that I found. Well, a little controversial. We have to talk about the free meal phenomenon.
I had a feeling you'd bring this up.
Come on. The data shows that 26% of people admit to going on a date primarily to get a free meal. And for Gen Z, that number is 31%.
Wow.
Okay, let's unpack this. On one hand, that sounds incredibly cynical. It makes dating sound almost predatory.
It does.
But on the other hand, if 31% of young adults are doing this, it speaks to a level of genuine financial strain, doesn't it?
It has to. It's survival mode disguised as romance.
Yeah, and I think it connects to this bigger picture of just, dating app fatigue.
Oh, for sure. The data on that is stark. Something like 79% of Gen Z are just tired of the apps.
And why wouldn't they be? They feel transactional. They lead to these situationships.
Right, so people are trying to meet in person again. Grocery stores, social gatherings, because the whole digital market just feels like a drain on both their emotions and their wallets.
So if you're going to suffer through a bad date, getting a burger out of it might just be the consolation prize.
Grim, but I get it.
Me too. But then you have the apps that are actually doubling down on the financial aspect. Did you see this report about the app called Score?
I did. It's fascinating. It's a dating app. And it's exclusive to people with a credit score of 675 or higher.
That is wild. It's like the bouncer at the club isn't checking your ID, he's checking your Equifax report.
Sorry, pal, your debt-to-income ratio is too high. You can't come in.
Exactly.
It sounds dystopian, almost like something out of a sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
But if you think about the logic, If financial stress is a leading cause of divorce, this app is trying to filter for financial health as a prerequisite for romance.
So a good credit score becomes a proxy for what?
Yeah.
Reliability,
The
stability.
character even. It sends that message.
It really takes the mystery out of it.
Yeah.
But it brings us to the core shift in priorities we're seeing. There's this data comparing millennials and Gen Z, and it seems like the days of the starving artist romance are officially over.
They really are. The data shows that Gen Z is significantly more likely than millennials to choose financial stability over love, 46% versus 41%.
And the term they used for millennials was being willing to accept a broke and magical relationship.
Broken magical. That sounds like a 2010 indie movie.
It really does.
Yeah.
You know, we have no furniture, but we have big dreams and a record player.
Exactly. But Gen Z isn't buying it. One expert in the source material put it bluntly. Gen Z is choosing survival.
Right.
They watch millennials graduate into a recession, struggle with debt, maybe delay milestones forever. So Gen Z is saying, I can't afford to fall in love with someone who's going to drag me down financially.
It's a very pragmatic approach to the heart. But their salary expectations, that surprised me. You'd think if they care this much about money, they'd want a partner earning millions.
Actually, it's the opposite. The report breaks down the ideal partner salary. Gen X and boomers, they want a partner earning around $115,000.
Okay.
Millennials want about $100,000. Gen Z, they're aiming for a much more modest $80,000.
That is so interesting. So it's not about greed. It's about a baseline.
Yeah.
They just want to know the lights will stay on and the rent will be paid.
Precisely. They aren't looking for a savior. They're looking for a partner who is solvent. And interestingly, there's a gender divide here, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the data shows that women at 58% are actually more likely than men to still choose love or the broken magical relationship over security.
But they still demand high financial transparency.
Exactly. It's a complex dynamic.
Yeah.
And we see this desire for stability reflected culturally, too, in the rise of the trad wife aesthetic and the trend of wearing office attire casually.
This is one of my favorite connections in the research. Why are young people dressing like they work in a 1990s corporate office when they actually work remotely?
Right? Blazers to brunch. What is that about?
It's a longing for traditional security. In a shaky job market, dressing the part of the stable professional
Or romanticizing a traditional domestic role?
is a way of projecting or just grasping for stability. It's fashion as a defense mechanism against economic chaos. It's saying, I am safe. I am structured.
That makes so much sense. It's armor.
But even if you find that stable partner with the nice blazer and the 700 credit score, things can get messy.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the dark side of this. We need to talk about financial infidelity.
This is a heavy hitter. We have an academic paper that really rigorously defines this, and it's important we get the definition right, because it's not just, I bought a coffee and didn't tell you.
Right. If I buy a sandwich for lunch and don't text my partner, am I a cheater?
No. They defined financial infidelity as, well, it has two key parts.
Okay.
First, you're engaging in a financial behavior that you expect your partner will disapprove of.
So you have to know they would be mad.
You have to know. And second, you have to intentionally fail to disclose it. You hide it on purpose.
Expected disapproval and intentional non-disclosure.
Okay. Correct. That's the distinction. If you buy a secret candy bar, but you know your partner wouldn't care, that's just privacy. Infidelity requires that element of normative conflict. It would cause a fight, so you hide it.
And the sources list like 12 categories of this behavior. It's not just hiding massive credit card debt.
No, it ranges from the obvious, like gambling or secret debt, to the very subtle, things like hiding receipts, creating a secret savings account.
Wait, let's pause on the secret savings account. Because usually we think of saving as a virtue. How does saving money become an act of infidelity?
It becomes infidelity when it's about an exit strategy. If you're siphoning off family funds into a private account that your partner doesn't know about, you're effectively betting against the relationship.
Wow.
You're building a wall. It breaks the shared reality of the couple.
That is incredibly insidious when you frame it that way. It's not about the money. It's about the lack of commitment. And interestingly, the demographics of who considers this cheating are quite split.
I saw that. Women are significantly more likely than men, 46% acts 30%, to view hiding debt as cheating.
And there's a huge generational divide, too. Boomers judge it much more harshly than Gen Z. 48% of boomers see it as cheating, compared to only 29% of Gen Z.
That is surprising given how much Gen Z values stability. Why do you think they're more lenient on the secrecy part?
My take. I think Gen Z values autonomy differently. They might see keeping finances somewhat separate as normal, so hiding a purchase feels less like a betrayal and more like exercising independence.
Like, this is my money, why do I need to report it?
Exactly. Whereas boomers might have a more what's mine is yours mentality.
That's a very valid point. But regardless of the generation, the root cause is usually the same: anticipated disapproval. People hide things to avoid conflict or judgment, not necessarily because they want to be malicious.
So it's fear. We lie because we're scared of the fight.
It's fear. Which leads us to the psychology of it all. We have this fascinating research linking attachment theory to money.
Okay, I love attachment theory. I usually think about it in terms of, are you clingy or are you distant? But I never thought about how it affects my wallet.
It's a direct correlation. The research looks at anxious attachment and avoidant attachment.
Okay.
People with anxious attachment who fear abandonment often use money to buy love.
Oh, wow. So like treating everyone to drinks because you want them to like you, or buying the partner expensive gifts to prove your worth.
Exactly. Or gaining admiration through status items. But they also tend to be hypervigilant about their partner's spending. They are watching the bank account like a hawk because they see financial irresponsibility as a sign that the partner doesn't care.
That sounds exhausting. You bought a latte, do you not love me?
It can feel that way. On the other side, you have the avoidant types. People with avoidant attachment are uncomfortable with closeness. They often use money as a tool for independence and control.
Ah, so they might be the ones with the secret accounts.
They might, but not to be shady, but to maintain a safety exit or just some emotional distance.
So they use money to build a moat around themselves.
And they're likely to look down on a partner's financial flaws as a way to justify keeping that distance. They'll say, oh, I can't really commit to this person. They're bad with money, using it as a shield against intimacy.
So in many ways, our bank statements are just a looking glass into our childhood trauma.
In a way, yes. The researchers use something called the VSA model vulnerability, stress adaptation. Your attachment style is the vulnerability. Financial stress is the stress.
And how you handle money, hiding it, spending it, controlling it is the adaptation.
Exactly.
And sometimes that adaptation leads to bad habits, even if you're making good money. There's a cautionary tale in our stack from, I think it was the Economic Times.
Yes, the high earner, low wealth trap. The article profiles a couple earning a very high income, but they're saving barely 10% of it.
This is lifestyle inflation, right? The more you make, the more you spend.
It is. Every time they get a bonus or a raise, they buy a new car or upgrade their lifestyle, they have what the source calls an illusion of security. They feel rich because the cash flow is high, but they're actually incredibly vulnerable because they aren't building any assets.
It's the classic golden handcuffs. And I think this resonates with a lot of people who look at their high-earning friends and wonder, why are they always broke?
It's because wealth isn't determined by salary size. It's determined by what you keep. And in relationships, this dynamic is toxic.
Yeah, that's where the conflict starts.
If one person is saving and the other is inflating their lifestyle, you have that normative conflict we talked about earlier.
So what's the solution? We've painted a pretty scary picture here. Dating is expensive, secrets are everywhere, our attachment styles are sabotaging us.
And even high earners are struggling.
But Gen Z seems to be figuring out a new playbook.
They are. Despite the checked out narrative, they're actually being incredibly proactive.
Yeah.
There's data showing that 48% of married Gen Z couples created a formal financial plan before saying, I do.
48%?
Yes.
That's double the average of other generations. That is wildly responsible.
It is. They aren't waiting until the crisis hits. They are front-loading the hard conversations.
So what does that conversation look like? When do you have it?
Well, the advice is a staged approach. You don't ask for a credit report on the first date, despite what that Score app might imply.
Right.
But you look for warning signs early, like lavish spending that doesn't seem to match their job. The key milestone, according to the sources, is when you become exclusive.
Okay.
37% of people say that is the time to share salary details.
So the conversation goes, will you be my girlfriend? Followed immediately by, and what is your gross annual income?
It sounds unromantic, but it prevents that financial infidelity trap later. If you set the baseline of transparency early, you don't feel the need to hide things.
It normalizes talking about money, so it's not this big, scary, taboo subject.
Exactly. And we saw a list of the top goals for couples in 2026, and it's a very pragmatic list. Number 1 is saving for a home down payment, even though prices are high.
They haven't given up on it.
Number 2 is planning major travel. But numbers 3 and 4 are crucial. Building an emergency fund and paying off debt as a team.
As a team. is the key phrase there. But does that mean merging everything into one joint account? Because we just established that Gen Z loves their autonomy.
It does not necessarily mean merging accounts. In fact, one source found that 54% of couples keep finances separate. The modern trend is more towards these partner access apps.
How does that work?
These tools let you see each other's finances, balances, upcoming bills, without necessarily merging the actual cash. It's about visibility, not control.
Okay, so you can see the full picture without losing your individual agency.
That's the idea. It seems like a healthy middle ground. You can see if the ship is sinking without having to ask permission to buy a coffee.
Right. And it moves away from just spreadsheets, which are static and boring, to forecasting tools that show you your future together.
And the data shows this approach is working. Gen Z is resilient. 72% of them took steps to improve their financial health in the last year. 51% are actively putting money towards savings.
So despite the stereotype that they're just buying little treats and giving up on home ownership, they're actually grinding pretty hard.
They are defying the stereotype. They're just doing it with a lot more anxiety and a lot more planning than previous generations.
Because they're hyper aware of the risks.
So they're building stronger defenses.
So if we look at this whole picture, from the cost of that first $100 date to the psychology of attachment and the rise of financial transparency, what's the big takeaway for someone listening right now?
I think the takeaway is that in 2026, you cannot separate love from money. The romantic ideal of love conquers all has been replaced by transparency conquers all. Financial health is now a love language. If you want a relationship to last in this high-cost world, you have to treat your partner as a financial co-founder, not just a romantic interest.
The financial co-founder.
Yeah.
Like that. It's unsexy, but it's solid. It implies a shared mission.
It's very solid, and it prevents that illusion of security we talked about. It grounds the relationship in reality.
Well, this has been a massive deep dive. We've gone from dating apps, checking credit scores, to the deep psychology of why we hide receipts.
It really covers the whole spectrum of human behavior.
Before we go, I want to leave our listener with a question. We talked about financial infidelity hiding purchases, your partner would disapprove of.
Right. The expected disapproval.
So, listener, ask yourself this. If you bought something today that you know your partner would hate or judge you for, would you tell them? And if you didn't tell them, at what price point does that secret become a lie? Is it $5, $50, $500?
That is the question that keeps relationships honest.
Think about it. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.